Hello guys, it's me again. And in this video, we're going to continue with the fourth chapter from the book The Psychology of Money, written by Morgan Housel. And the title of the chapter is Confounding Compounding. If you have seen my last video, then we basically went through the story of the ice ages and how they have occurred on Earth over like multiple times in the history of the world, and what was the reason behind that, and how does it basically relate to how things compound, basically, right? And in this second part of the chapter, we're going to talk about one of the famous investors, Mr. Warren Buffett, and how compounding has actually helped him make his net worth. I mean, how rich he is right now, and how did compounding play a part in that? So, more than 2,000 books have been written on the success of Warren Buffett, how he has been a phenomenal investor. Um, and but very few of those books actually mention the fact that it was not just his investing expertise that actually made him a multi-billionaire, but also the fact that he had been investing since he was a 10-year-old kid. So, so Warren Buffett's worth right now, or at the time when this book was written, was $84.5 billion. And out of those $84.5 billion, 84.2, which is like a huge proportion of the total number, actually he made that money after his 50th birthday, right? Um, so uh, so he basically accumulated like the majority of his wealth after the age of 50, but he had been investing since he was 10 years old. Now, let's say, for example, if Warren Buffett had been a normal guy, like someone who starts investing, I mean, at the age of 30, for example. And that's what most of the people do, I guess, because usually people are exploring, they're trying to find their passion in their 20s, they're having fun and that kind of stuff. So let's say on average, if he had started investing when he was 30 years old, and the money that he had at 30 years old, let's say he had like $25,000, and by the time he would retire, let's say at the age of 60, if he had retired at the age of 60, then his total net worth, according to the returns that he has made in his real life, which is 22% annual returns, then he would be worth around $22 million, which is like not even 1% of his current net worth. Uh, so the thing is, here you can see, even though he is making the same amount of returns per year, but since he's starting in 30s now rather than when he was 10, you could say that his secret was actually time. His investing skills are also very important, but at the same time, I would say his secret was time. And to compare this, we can talk about Mr. Jim Simmons. So he was the head of the hedge fund at Renaissance Technologies, and that guy has been making 66% annual returns since 1988. And but if you compare the net worth of Warren Buffett and Jim Simons, then Jim Simons is worth $21 billion compared to $84.5 billion of Warren Buffett, even though he had made more annual returns every year since 1988. And the reason for the discrepancy between the total net worth of Warren Buffett and Jim Simons is because Jim Simons started investing when he was in his 50s, when he was 50 years old. But let's say if Jim Simons had invested when he was a kid as well, just like just like Warren Buffett, and he had made the same annual returns that he has made since 1988, which is 66% annual returns, as I mentioned before. Then at the age of 70, what do you guys think his net worth would be? You know, and it's a very mind-boggling number actually. So hold your breath. It's going to be the total net worth he would have if he had started investing when he was 10 years old and had made 66% annual returns every year. Then his net worth would be 63 quintillion 900 quadrillion 781 trillion 780 billion 748 million $168,000. I mean, this number is just plain mind-boggling and seems very impractical. But that is the thing actually with compounding. I mean, compounding can seem like a very non-trivial thing, or like it's very hard to get your head around it. But if you look at the results that it can give you, it's really amazing. I mean, I will give you another example. Let's say if you're asked to add 8 9 times, and the number 8, if you add it 9 times, you will have 72. 72 will be the answer, right? But if someone tells you to multiply 8 9 times, then it's a different calculation, and then it's a different number altogether, which is a very high number. So it's going to come out to be 134,217,728. So you see, like addition and multiplication, so they can give you very different results. Another example would be the size of the hard drives. Like in the 1950s, a typical hard drive would hold almost like a couple of megabytes, like I think exactly 3.5 megabytes. But fast forward to 1990s, you have hard drives that are that can store up to 500 megabytes, like half a GB. But then you fast forward even further to this date, and then you have hard drives that can store thousands of terabytes. But looking at 1950s to where we are right now, I mean, like 60, 70 years have 70 years have been passed, 70, 75 years, and then the difference between how much memory a hard drive can have, it's mind-boggling. So the point again is compounding works in just like that. I mean, it can be very hard to think about it in the sense like how much return it can give you, uh, but in the end, the results can be really, really mind-boggling. So the moral of all of this, of all these stories, is basically, um, I mean, we saw with Warren Buffett, 2,000 books have been written about him, but I think they should also, or the author thinks they should also write one more book, and that book should be called Shut Up and Wait. I mean, you just invest your money and you wait and watch it grow. Um, so the thing is, and the reason for saying that is most of the books that we read about investing, they talk about investment strategies, they talk about different like how there are economic cycles, the bull market, the bear market, how to utilize those cycles and make good investments. But the thing is, like, it's very hard to make an investment that would give you like really, really good returns. It's very hard. I mean, even if you can manage to do it, you will be able to do it maybe once or twice. It's very hard to replicate. But what we can replicate is to make a normal investment or a good enough investment, which can actually be replicated multiple times, and it compounds over time. So, so I think, yeah, that's about it in this chapter, uh, confounding compounding. Hope you learned something. and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.